Most paranormal encounters get dismissed before anyone takes them seriously, but what happens when the camera catches something that can't be talked away? The following 8 clips weren't staged or planned, and for those who experienced these moments, the terror was completely real. Case 1. The dark mist on the porch. A group of friends was out for a walk on what seemed like a perfectly normal night. Nothing unusual about the route, nothing unusual about the hour, until they passed a specific house and something on the porch stopped them completely. One of them was already recording, which is the only reason we can see what they saw. At first glance, the porch looks empty, but within seconds, something becomes visible. A dark mist floating in the air and moving in a way that doesn't match wind, doesn't match smoke, and doesn't match anything with an obvious physical source. The unsettling part isn't just that it's moving, it's the way it moves. Slowly, shifting direction, almost deliberately, like something with intention behind it. And then it starts to condense. The edges begin pulling inward, forming outlines that vaguely resemble a human shape, as if whatever this is was trying to take form right in front of them. The group goes quiet. You can hear the exact moment curiosity tips into fear. Nobody ran, but nobody got closer either. Some people watching this have called it a smoke machine, a fog effect, a trick of light, but none of those explanations account for the shape it takes at the end, or why it was on a residential porch at that hour with no one around. What do you think was standing on that porch? Case 2, the window at the Stanley Hotel is... If you know anything about haunted locations in America, the Stanley Hotel in Colorado needs no introduction. This is the place that inspired Stephen King to write The Shining, and the staff there will tell you the stories that inspired it weren't entirely fiction. Guests have reported unexplained footsteps, doors opening on their own, and apparitions appearing in hallways that should be empty. Mark Sebastian had heard all of it before his stay. What he didn't expect was to catch something himself. While filming the hotel's exterior late at night, Mark notices movement in one of the upper windows. A silhouette, clearly shaped like a person, appears, holds position for a moment, and then retreats back into the darkness of the room. Here's the detail that makes this more than just a blurry window reflection. When Mark checked with hotel staff, they confirmed that room was completely closed to the public. No guest had access to it. No staff member was conducting patrols inside it at 2:30 in the morning. Mark went back in daylight to film the exact window from the outside so viewers could see the layout. The chair placement, the angles, the sight lines. The geometry of what was captured doesn't leave a lot of comfortable room for a mundane explanation. Mark isn't the first person to document something impossible at the Stanley, and based on that hotel's history, he almost certainly won't be the last. Case 3, the feet under the truck. Sam Rose is a truck driver who regularly crosses the highways of Southeast Asia in the middle of the night. He films his routes and shares them online. Most of it is routine, but one particular night, his truck broke down on a stretch of road near a bridge with a very specific reputation. Locals know this bridge. They say a dark spirit appears there. Sam knew the stories. He didn't take them seriously enough. Stopped alone in the dark, Sam starts to feel watched. He asks out loud, several times, "Who's there?" as if some part of him already knows something is close. When he crouches down to check underneath the truck, the camera captures it. A pair of feet on the other side of the vehicle, not standing on the ground, suspended, hovering just above the road surface as if whatever they belonged to had no weight, no physical contact with anything solid. Sam immediately runs around to check. Nothing. No person, no animal, no explanation for what the lens just recorded. He gets back in the truck and drives, shaken in a way that doesn't look performed. The bridge's reputation didn't come from nowhere, and after watching this clip, it's difficult to argue it's entirely legend. Case 4, the woman who kept coming back. This one starts strange and gets progressively more disturbing with every layer. A dog trainer living in an isolated property outside the city gets an unexpected visitor. A woman who shows up unannounced, claims someone told her about his German shepherds and immediately starts pushing to get onto the property. He says no. She doesn't leave. She keeps pushing at the gate, keeps insisting, and something about her manner sets every alarm off at once. He manages to get her to leave, and then hours later at midnight she's back. Then at 3 in the morning she's back again. This time claiming she came to bless him and his dogs. In the middle of this second confrontation, she vanishes. Not walks away, not drives off, disappears in front of him with no explanation for where she went. The police had apparently been searching for someone matching her description for 4 days in the surrounding area and found nothing. No car, no trail, no record of how she arrived or where she went. The isolation of the property matters here. This isn't a place someone stumbles across by accident. Whatever her intentions were and wherever she came from, the trainer spent the rest of that night making sure every gate was locked. Can you blame him? Case 5, the little girl and the music. Not every paranormal encounter announces itself with slammed doors and floating figures. Sometimes it comes through a child who doesn't yet understand what she's seeing or who she's talking to. A mother was filming herself playing with her young daughter at home, a completely ordinary evening, when the little girl suddenly said something that stopped the moment cold. The child points and says there's music, and then describes someone being there with her. The mother didn't register the full weight of it immediately, but later, reviewing the footage, it hit her. She had lost a son just a few months earlier, and the way her daughter described the presence, the detail, the certainty, the complete calm led her to believe the little girl was seeing her brother, her late brother. What makes this one linger is the absence of fear in the child. She wasn't scared. She was just telling her mom someone was there, the way you'd mention any ordinary thing. Kids that age don't perform. They don't manufacture emotional context. She saw something, or someone, and the only person it makes sense to be is the one person in that family who was already gone. Case 6, the horror movie that opened something. Two women decided to spend the night watching a horror film. Low stakes, low commitment, just a movie. But somewhere during the night, the atmosphere in that house shifted in a way that had nothing to do with what was on the screen. Strange sounds started coming from different parts of the house. Unexplained, sourceless, and getting harder to rationalize by the minute. At one point, they ask Alexa to mute the TV. She doesn't respond. They ask again. Buffing. For anyone who uses a smart speaker regularly, you know that unexplained non-response in a tense moment carries its own specific kind of dread. The look on both their faces says they're past the point of convincing each other it's nothing. There's a theory, genuinely held by some researchers in this space, that horror content can act as a kind of signal, drawing certain presences toward a location. Most people dismiss that idea immediately. These two women sitting in that room were not in a dismissive mood. Whatever was in that house that night had made itself known, and it had done it without showing itself once. Case 7, the figure on the truck. Two people were driving at night on a road in Indonesia when they noticed something on the cargo bed of a truck traveling just ahead of them. Strange enough that they slowed down. Strange enough that they started recording before they fully understood what they were looking at. The figure on top of the truck doesn't move the way a person moves. The posture is wrong, the proportions are off, and it appears to be oriented toward the car behind it, watching rather than riding. The road is dark and the footage has limitations, so there's genuine room for debate about what exactly was captured here. But the people driving that car didn't feel like they were looking at a stowaway or a prank. They felt like whatever was on that truck knew they were there. The clip was posted online in search of answers, and the response in the comments was almost unanimous. Viewers weren't buying the human explanation. At some point on that road, the two of them made a decision to stop following. That feels like the right call. Case 8, the screams in the Appalachian Mountains. Saving the most viscerally unsettling for last. A couple booked a horror-themed Airbnb cabin in the Appalachian Mountains, which, if you know anything about the folklore attached to that region, is already a choice that deserves a raised eyebrow. They went in lighthearted. They did not stay that way. It starts with sounds from outside, distant, unidentifiable, easy enough to dismiss at first. Then the sounds get closer. Then they become screams. Not animal sounds that could be mistaken for screaming. Screams, human, agonizing, coming through the darkness from a direction that didn't have any neighbors for miles. The couple made the call to leave immediately, got in the car, and drove. What they didn't notice until they reviewed the footage later, in the rear window of the car, as they were pulling away, a dark figure is visible moving behind the vehicle. The cabin was completely isolated. There was no one else out there, or at least nothing that should have been. They posted the footage the next morning from the safety of home, and said afterward that those screams felt less like a threat and more like a warning. Given everything that was apparently standing just outside that car window, they were probably right to listen. And there you have it, 8 encounters, 0 clean explanations. Whether you're a full believer or the world's most committed skeptic, at least one of these clips probably made you pause. Which one got you the most? Drop it in the comments. And if you've had your own encounter that belongs on a list like this, we genuinely want to hear it. Subscribe for more, because the archive goes deep.